So I have listed some very basic 40 Viva questions on FEEE. The first question is on current. What is the electric current? Answer is the rate of flow of electric charge. Flow of electric charge is called as electric current. So what is the unit of electric current? The unit of electric current is amps. So ampere, you can write ampere or capital A. That is the unit of current. On voltage, what is voltage? It is the potential difference between the 2 points in a circuit. In a circuit, between the 2 points, if you measure the potential difference, that is called as a voltage. What is the unit of voltage? The unit of voltage is volt and it is represented by V. On resistance, what is resistance? It is the opposition to the flow of electric current. So the unit of resistance is ohm, 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 or the symbol is this. So what is power? The rate at which electric energy is converted into other form of energy. So at which rate the electric energy is converted into another form of energy, that is called as electric power. For example, consider a light bulb which converts electrical energy. When we give a voltage, it produces light. So the light bulb, it converts electrical energy into light and a heat energy. So one form of energy is converted into another form of energy, and at which rate it is converted is called as a electric power. What is the unit of electric power? The unit of power is watt. Now, between the relationship between current, voltage, and resistance, there is one question on that. State Ohm's law. This is very, very important. The current flowing through the conductor is, this is I. In this formula, you can see I is directly proportional to V and it is inversely proportional to R. The same thing, we can write it in a statement as the current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to the voltage applied across it. This is directly proportional, provided the temperature and other physical conditions remain constant. So the temperature should be constant. The current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to the voltage. Here I stands for current. It is measured in amps. V is the voltage. It is measured in volts. R is the resistance. It is measured in ohms. So write the formula for Ohm's law. V is equal to I into R, where V is voltage, I is current, R is resistance. What instrument is used to measure voltage, or which instrument is used to measure voltage? Answer is voltmeter. Which instrument is used to measure electric current? Answer is ammeter. Which instrument is used to measure resistance? Answer is ohm meter. So how is an ohm meter used? By connecting it across the component. So if you want to measure the resistance, you should connect the ohm meter across the resistance between the two ends of the resistor. If you connect the ohm meter, it will measure the resistance. So, but the condition is you should remove the component from the circuit, then you should measure the resistance value. So what instrument is used to measure the electric power? Answer is wattmeter. Okay. Question number 17. How do you measure current in a circuit? So to measure current in a circuit, you should use ammeter, because ammeter is an instrument used to measure the current. You should be connected in series. Remember, it should be connected in series. How do you measure voltage across component? So to measure voltage, we need an instrument, voltmeter. It should be connected in parallel. Voltmeter should be connected in parallel. Ammeter should be connected in series in the circuit. What happens to the circuit? What happens to the current in a circuit if there is an open circuit? So if the circuit is open, no current flows. So current becomes zero. What happens to the total resistance in parallel circuit if one resistance is shorted? So if one, assume there are two resistors, they are connected in parallel. So what is the formula to find out the total resistance? R1 into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. If one of the resistance is shorted means zero resistance. So if any one of the resistance becomes zero, the total resistance becomes very low, or it almost becomes zero. So the total resistance becomes zero. What is the effect on the voltage across the component in a parallel circuit if one component fails open? So if the two resistors are connected in parallel, if one resistor fails, or if it becomes open, so what will be the voltage across the component? It remains same, because we know that voltage across the parallel circuit is same. Even one resistor or two resistor or three resistors, if you connect in parallel, the voltage remains same. It is unchanged. So how do you measure the voltage drop across individual resistance in a circuit? Connect the voltmeter in parallel with the resistor. So wherever you want to measure the voltage, you just connect the voltmeter between the 2 points of the resistor, 2 ends of the resistor, you will get the voltage drop. So how do you measure the current through a specific resistor in a circuit? So we all know that ammeter should be connected in series. So you should connect ammeter in series with the resistor. So what effect does increasing resistance have a current through it in a series circuit? So if in a circuit, if you increase the resistance, what happens to the current? According to the Ohm's law, I is equal to V by R. So if R increases, current decreases, because current is inversely proportional to resistance. So how does the total voltage across the resistor in series relate to the individual voltage drop? So this question they are asking, what is the total voltage? If you are connecting two resistors in series, what is the total voltage they are asking? So because across R1 there is one voltage drop, that is V1, and for R2 the voltage drop across R2 is V2. So what is the total voltage? It is the sum of the two voltages. Total voltage is V1 plus V2. So the answer is V1 plus V2. The total voltage is equal to sum of the individual voltage drops. So how do you calculate the equivalent resistance if the resistors are connected in series? The equivalent resistance is R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus dash dash dash. Dash indicates if you have more number of resistors. If you have only two resistors, R1 plus R2. If you have three resistors, R1 plus R2 plus R3, in the same way. So if you have three resistors resistance with the values 5, 10 and 15, what is the equivalent resistance? Because they are connected in series, total resistance is sum of all the three resistors. 5 plus 10 plus 15. So 25 plus 5 is, it is the equivalent resistance is 30 ohm. What happens to the total resistance when more number of resistors are added in series? If you go on connect the number of resistors in series, what happens to the total resistance? Definitely the total resistance increases, because we know that R equivalent is R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus R4 and so on. So the total resistance increases. How does the current through the each resistor in series circuit compare? The current through each resistor is same. In series circuit, the current remains same in all the resistors, but in parallel circuit, the voltage remains same. This is very, very important for your next semester. The current remains same in a series circuit, the voltage remains same in a parallel circuit. Then how does the voltage across each resistor in series circuit related to the total voltage? Just now I told the voltage across each resistor is proportional to resistance, and it adds up to the total voltage. Total voltage becomes sum of all the voltages. If there are three resistance, voltage across first resistance is V1, voltage across second resistance is V2, voltage across third resistor is V3. So the total voltage is V1 plus V2 plus V3. If there are four resistors, it is V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus V4 and so on. How do you calculate the equivalent resistance in parallel circuit? It is 1 by R equivalent equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. Or if you have only two resistors, so you can write R equivalent is equal to If there are only two resistance, you can write like R1 into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. This is also same. You can write 1 by R equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2, or R equivalent equal to R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. If there are three resistance, how do you calculate the equivalent resistance? It is equal to, so I'll write like this, same thing, copy. So it is R1 into R2 into, if there are three resistance, it is R3 divided by R1 R2 plus R2 R3 plus R3 R1. So you can write 1 by R equivalent equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3, or R1 R2 R3 divided by R1 R2 R3 R3 R1. In this way, we calculate the equivalent resistance of parallel connected resistors. If you have two resistors connected in parallel, 4 and 6, what is the two equivalent resistance? So you should use this formula, R1 into R2 divided by R1 plus R2, 4 into 6 divided by 4 plus 6. 4 into 6 is 24 by 10. It is 2.4 ohm. The unit you should write. So it is 2.4 ohm. So what happens to the total resistance when more resistors are added in parallel? If you connect a number of resistors in series, the total resistance increases. If you connect number of resistors in parallel, the total resistance decreases, because you can check with the formula. So R1, R2, R3 divided by division takes place. That's why the resistance decreases. How does the voltage across each resistor in parallel circuit compare? The voltage across each resistor remains same in a parallel circuit. How do you measure frequency of an AC signal using CRO? So we should use the formula, frequency is equal to 1 by time period. So how to measure the time period? First, you should measure the time period of the signal on the CRO. Then after measuring the time period, use the formula to find out the frequency. How do you measure the time period now? So first you should use the horizontal scale, that is time per division. That knob you should use of the CRO to measure the time interval. So first you should select two consecutive peaks, peak 1 and peak 2. Between two consecutive peaks, you measure the time, or zero crossing of the waveform, you measure the time, then multiply with time per division knob, you will get the time period. If you 1 divided by, if you do that time period, you will get the frequency. So how can you adjust the frequency of the output signal from the function generator? So use the frequency control dial. There is frequency control knob, and or the input desired frequency value into the function generator. So how do you determine the phase difference between the two AC signals using CRO? First, you should calculate the time difference. After that, you should multiply the frequency into 360 degree. If you use this formula, then you can find out the phase difference between the two AC signals on the CRO. So how do you measure the peak to peak voltage on CRO? So first you should set the volt per division knob, that is vertical scale, of the CRO to measure the vertical distance between the peak. So between the positive peak and negative peak, measure the total number of units covered on the CRO, and that value you multiply with volt per division knob. You will get the total peak to peak voltage of the AC signal. What is the relation between voltage, power, and a current? So it is power is equal to V into I. Power is the product of voltage and current. So these are the few basic questions on FEE.